Hi, Bub scientists in second grade. We're going to read this book about bees, and we're going to be discussing in this book what would happen if there were no bees. So, this is the second important part of our learning this week about what would happen if there weren't as many pollinators, and especially what would happen if there weren't as many bees, because bees are the number one pollinator around the world. So, here we go. Don't be fooled by a bee's size. It's tiny compared to the foxes, skunks, and owls that share its grassland home. But bees do the work of giants. Bees spend countless hours darting from flower to flower to collect pollen and nectar. Flowers are a bee's best friend. They're often filled with a sweet liquid called nectar. Bees sip the nectar to keep up their energy. Honeybees also use nectar to make honey. As bees collect nectar, tiny pieces of pollen stick to their furry legs. When bees visit other flowers, the pollen falls off. Flowering plants need pollen to create seeds and fruits. This process is called pollination. As bees fly around to collect food, they face many dangers. Spiders, birds, toads, and other hungry predators hunt these hardworking insects. Pollution and some of the pesticides, those chemicals that farmers use to protect their crops, can also hurt bees. Since 2006, this is what this little box says. Since 2006, more and more honeybee colonies are dying unexpectedly. Worried beekeepers aren't sure why so many colonies are disappearing. Some people believe bee diseases, pesticides, poor eating, and stress may be harming the bees' health. Mice often make unwelcome nests in the bee boxes. When the mice aren't dangerous to the bees, they do damage the boxes and the bees' honeycomb. The smell of mouse droppings may cause bees to leave their hive for good. What would happen if bees became extinct? If there were no bees, farmers near the grasslands would have a lot of trouble growing crops. Farmers need bees, especially honeybees, to help pollinate their fruit and nut trees. Apples, cherry, plum, and avocado trees would produce less fruit or none at all without bees. Almond and macadamia nut trees would produce less too. It's critical. Sometimes a plant or animal species is so important that without it, many other species could become extinct. It's called a keystone species. Bees are a keystone species. Keystone species will help to make sure an ecosystem has many types of life in it. So on this page, while they're mentioning that apple, cherry, plum, avocado, almond, and macadamia nut trees would not be pollinated, there's tons of other trees and fruits and vegetables that we eat that would not be pollinated either. My orange tree in my backyard, my lemon tree that my neighbors have, all the fruits and vegetables, the vegetables I grow in my garden, the tomatoes, the zucchinis, the squash, they would not be able to turn into those fruits, or what we sometimes call vegetables, unless they have pollinators. So bees aren't the only pollinators, but they are the most important, and without them, we're in big trouble. Fields of strawberry plants would not be able to produce fruit. Neither would blueberry plants. Without bees, there would be fewer carrots, onions, and other vegetables. Bees are major pollinators of many fruit and vegetable crops. Honeybees pollinate about 90 different crops in North America. They help create about 1/3 of the food that we eat. Some farmers hire beekeepers to bring hives of bees to pollinate their fields. The bees stay a few weeks and then they are moved to another field. Grassland wildflowers and other plants couldn't make seeds without bees. Flowering bushes in nearby forests couldn't grow berries for birds. Soon, many mice, squirrels, and other small animals would not have enough food to survive. With fewer small animals, the larger animals would then be in trouble too. Foxes, owls, and other meat eaters would have a tougher time finding food. So, just by having fewer bees, there'd be all these repercussions, all these other problems that would happen to other plants and animals. Honeybees make honey from the nectar that they collect. Bears, skunks, mice, and ants love the sweet honey. It's an important food source for them. Without honey, these animals and many others would suffer too. It's critical. About 1/5 of a black bear's diet comes from honey, plus the fruits, nuts, and berries that are pollinated by bees. Without bees, black bears would be forced to move to new areas in search of food. Without bees, grasslands and nearby farms and forests would become quieter and less colorful places. There would be fewer truckloads of fresh fruits and vegetables. There would be no flowering plants blanketing the wide open fields. And there would be no bright berries or crunchy seeds for the forest animals to eat. What would happen if bees became extinct? So this is not just that there'd be fewer of bees, but that they would be gone forever. All kinds of things would happen if bees were extinct. The loss of one small creature, even as small as a bee, can have a huge impact on the ecosystems of our whole world. Today, scientists are studying bees closely to learn how to keep them safe and healthy. Farmers are finding new ways to control pests. All this hard work would mean more bees buzzing around in the future. And this diagram is really cool. It shows where bees live on every continent in the world except for Antarctica. And they live in all kinds of ecosystems, including deserts, tundras, and the forest. Now, this book focused mostly on bees in the grasslands, and so in the yellow is where they've labeled all the grasslands on Earth. But we have to know that bees are on every continent and almost every ecosystem, except for down in Antarctica by the South Pole. So, I hope that this book really made you think more about the importance of bees and all the things that can happen if there are no more bees. So this was our last sentence frame of the week, where we were talking about what would happen if there were fewer pollinators. So without bees or with fewer bees, humans would suffer. And how would we suffer? There'd be other animals that would suffer. And how would they suffer? What could happen? And it's something that's concerning to scientists right now. And that's why they're taking precautions to educate children and to write books and to do lots of research about how to keep bees safe and alive and thriving on Earth. But there is concern about bees in the world right now. So I just wanted you to be aware of that, scientists, and to think about how these pesky little bees that a lot of times we're afraid of because they could sting us, but that they're really so important on Earth for creating all of our food that we eat. Bye, guys.